Good afternoon, everyone. This is Nadia Subrati. I'm a personal branding specialist with CreateWealthWithNadia.com. How is everyone doing today? Hope you all are having an amazing day. So earlier, I posted a post. I created a post that I was running out of topics, right? And I wanted a topic to talk about when I go live. So I had a bunch of people who actually commented, and they wanted me to talk about different topics. So I actually chose one, and I'm actually going to talk about that right now. Hey, Anthony, what's going on, my friend? Hey, Nuta, what's going on? Hey, Ron, thank you for joining me. Okay, guys, so I'm going to jump right into it, right? So the topic that I chose to cover today and talk about is how I get over my greatest fear. And some of you might not think this is the greatest fear, what I'm actually going to talk to you guys about, but to me it was. And my greatest fear, how I got over my greatest fear, which was driving, right? Yeah, I know it has nothing to do with marketing, but my greatest fear was driving a car. I was terrified. I was scared because back in 2000, I got into a serious car accident at an intersection, and I wasn't driving, guys. I wasn't driving. An 18-wheeler. I had a driver. I was married at the time. I had a driver, and I was. My brother needed to go to Westchester County because he was going to private school. And he messaged me and he was like, listen, I need a ride. Can you have your driver take him to Westchester to go to school because he was graduating and he needed to, he went to private school. So he needed to remove all his clothes and bring it back to my mother's house. So I decided to, so I spoke to my driver and, well, actually I spoke to my ex-husband, was his driver, well, our driver. He drove him around everywhere he needed to go because my ex-husband, is a laparoscopic surgeon, and he didn't like driving, so he hired a driver. So this driver I had access to this driver 7 days a week, So I called him up and he sent the driver over. So I was actually taking my brother to Westchester, and for some reason the driver ran 6 red lights, and an 18-wheeler dump truck collided with us at an intersection. I was sitting on the back seat eating. My brother was sitting in the front with the driver. Anyway, it was a really bad car accident. And I knew I was dying. That's how bad it was. I have a scar right here. You can't really see it because the plastic surgeon did an amazing job. He did a great job. So you really can't see the scar. But it was like 150 stitches. My face was busted open. You could see all my teeth and everything. Anyway, on arrival to the hospital, I went into cardiac arrest. I flatlined and I died. And they brought me back. I was in ICU for a few days. They let me go because at the time I was married. My ex-husband is a doctor, so I was married. And the doctors that treated me in the hospital, they went to medical school and they did their residency with my ex-husband. So because my husband was my ex-husband, as a surgeon, they actually sent me home and my ex-husband took care of me. This was after 3 days of being in ICU. So I was pretty banged up. I went through several months of physical therapy. My spine was messed up. It was bad. It was bad. I've seen so many doctors during the first year, but that's beside the point. But anyway, it was from a car accident. So I was terrified, right? I was terrified to drive. And I didn't drive, guys. I didn't start driving until 2012 when I graduated. When I went back to school and I graduated, my ex-fiance bought me a Mercedes for me to get over my fear of driving. He's like, because I didn't want a car, I did not want to drive, I didn't want to get my driver's license. So what he did was he bought me a Mercedes, and the Mercedes was parked up in the garage, guys, for a whole year because I failed the road test twice. And I had to wait to take the road test again. So the car was parked up for a year. I didn't want to drive it. I was like terrified. And then he could have gotten me a cheaper car, which I probably would have felt like comfortable banging it around, but he didn't. He got me a Mercedes. He's like, listen, this is your graduation present from me, and I don't want to get you a cheap car because you're a new driver. I don't want you driving on a highway and getting in a car accident and end up dying. So he got me a really nice car. He got me an E350 Mercedes, really, really nice car. But the car was parked up in the garage for a whole year because I was scared to drive it. So in the winter time, I would have my brother come over to my house and just take the car for a drive it around. So, because I was scared to drive, guys. I swear to God, I was terrified of driving, terrified, and after I failed the first road test, I was like, oh, but the car, he already bought the car and the car was in the garage, in our garage, and I was scared to drive it, right? So I failed the road test. And I procrastinated. I was like, even though I took so many driving courses and lessons and all of this stuff, I failed the road test the first time. And I didn't even want to drive anymore. And he's like, oh, I got you this car. It's parked up there.